Hey, hello. So today I'm going to basically take a look at these different units from P-Clan Collection from the perspective of an Oracle think tank player. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to rank these based on my impressions on how scary or not scary I'm going to find these. So this might not age well, or it might end up aging well. I don't know, depending on where I rank things. This is obviously just my first impressions based on the reveals only having ended recently. So we'll just get started. The Angel Feather Stride, I'm going to say this is something I have to be careful for because it does countercharge 3, it helps with Hamil, it's also getting you drive checks and 10k power for each card that you end up putting in, so it's like Monogama, very similar to Monogama, and I know a thing or two about how scary that card can be. So I think if you're not careful you can get hurt by this, so I'm going to put it on the be careful category. Then we have the Royal Paladin Stride. So this thing doesn't really feel like it does anything new against Oracle Think Tank in terms of pressure. Like anything that's already out there right now, like Jewel Knights for example, is already, in my opinion, the peak of how scary Royal Paladins can be. So because of that, I can't really rate this as being scarier because it has to actually kind of do something new that elevates the fear of the deck. And I don't think it does that. It does help against certain matchups. It does help with certain awkward situations that you might find yourself in. Like for example, Jewel Knights, they might like this card because Salome and Crystal Luster combined are each one counterblast to use for the restand and for the gaining 10k and drive check. Both are Salome's skills, of course. So the thing is with that is that basically you're able to get damage denied, and if that happens, maybe you might decide to go to this stride. Also, it's good against Gridora decks, so that's another reason why it's going to see play. But I don't think I would say this is something that changes for Oracle Think Tank. And then Gold Paladins, well, this is mainly like a restanding Vanguard if anything, but it doesn't really do anything with the rear guards besides every rear guard is spherical, gains 5k. That could be good, but I think the heavy negging could be used to your advantage, the canvas cost as well. And to be honest, this is not really the sort of thing I would be scared of as an Oracle thing to play. It's other things that I'm more scared of in Gold Paladins, and I feel like if they have to drop more cards and they have to counterblast, like, and I mean actually dropping meaningful cards, then I don't think this is going to be something that's going to maybe change things in terms of how scary Gold Paladins is. Gold Paladins is already scary as it is, and I don't think this really changes much, if anything. Then we have the Shadow Paladin Stride. So this is actually initially a retire 2. So you retire 2 initially, so that means if you're playing like a Stride Bearer that pluses, or if you're like using anything really that like the main engine, then you can try and offset this a bit more. But generally what happens is that it'll punish you if you don't have 3 rear guards to retire. So if you're playing like a Diablo deck or something that can retire, then you can actually mess around with the opponent and get the restands while actually taking out your opponent's units. So it's very good for that in terms of card economy, and that in a way does make it so I have to be a little bit careful with that. So I'm not going to put this under the cute section, I think, because it does require a bit of thinking if you don't want to get messed up with this. But at the same time, I kind of want to put this under cute because it is an opportunity cost. If you're using this, then it means you're not dealing with, well, if they're using this stride, that you're not dealing with Morfessa, you're not dealing with Raging Form spamming, you're not dealing with Chain Ranker Dragon. So at the same time, I think I'd rather be slammed by this card, to be honest. So I'm going to put this on the cute section. But it does plus a bit back because it is 2 triple drive swings, so that's important. Then the Oracle Think Tank Stride, it's the OTT mirror match, and we're playing Protect Gifts and PGs, so this is pretty easy to deal with, I think, this stride. So I'm not really scared of this, but if they use the Sentinel Restrict Battles to Trifle, then it's going to be scarier, I'd say. Then we have the Genesis Stride. So the Genesis Stride, I'll also put it on because the PGs can stop it as well, and we're playing Protect Clan, so it makes this card easier to deal with. And the multi-attackers are a bit more of a stretch anyway. I don't think they're going to do enough against OTT, for the most part anyway, unless you get an Overtrigger. Then we have the Dragon Empire, so the Kagura Stride. This card is more like a resource playing card because what it does is, it's good if your opponent is lacking counterblast because you can damage deny them. It's a way to punish your opponent for not having a field. It gives your front row 10k. It's an extra drive and extra crit, and that's sort of a way to make your opponent guard so that you deny them damage. But with OTT, I don't think damage now is going to hurt against this card. So And since we have the new stride anyway, which is also a G flip, and it's very easy to go into, and you don't need counterblast in the first place for it, it's so much easier now to deal with this cargo stride preemptively from this set. So this is definitely, like, if it was before Peak Clan Collection, then this would be slightly trickier, but now they just made it more easier for us. So, and that goes with any version, obviously. Tsukiyomi never cared, because Tsukiyomi was a free flip stride anyway to plus. But like in a Susano deck, for example, this stride works so well now because we don't need to counterblast to do first strides, and we don't have to stride into something that's just on here. So this is much better now. So I'll put this at the bottom in terms of cards to fear. Then we move on to the next Dragon Empire card. Let's go with Narukami next. Narukami. This card basically draws cards for every free rearguard in front row. We're playing a Protect Clan, we're not playing Axel, so we're okay against this. It's only going to give them minor pluses at most. It gains power buffs, but that's really it. So it's not really that scary, and they're not really going down to grade 3 card either. So it's probably going to go here, but I do think the draw 2 that they can do with this, the maximum draw 2 that is, because it's on place, I think that could be good with the G Guardians, but the G Guardians are, well, they're going to get turned off by Ichikishima anyway, so it's really the Eradicate Intercepts I'm worried about, but it's not really worth putting, I don't think, any higher than this, so I'll put it at the bottom for the OT matchup. Then what we have next is, we have the Tachikaze Stride. So this card can turn potentially your front row into restands if you actually manage to engorge and eat your back row, because 3 rear guards equals 3 restanding rear guards. It gives 10k power, which kind of offsets the disadvantage of losing your back row. So then you have to pay Soul Blast to get the restand. The thing is, you're sacrificing your chance to play Gluttony Naboros, so that's already one big restander gone. So it feels like it counterbalances a bit in that regard. And of course, damage triggers could maybe mess it up a little bit, but I don't think it will mess up that much because 10k is pretty good to have. But if you do 2 triggers, which is very doable in OTT, then that's kind of better. I don't think this is going to do enough to actually change things too much, so I might just put it under cute for now. But it is borderline, be careful. Then the next one we'll look at is the Murakumo Stride. So this card over here, what it can do is it can call cards, like it clones cards that you have in your field. So you have 2 more copies from your deck and you call it. And then it makes your back row also into a multi-attack, so you can attack with your back row. This is probably good with Shadow Stitch. I can't remember what the Shadow Stitch cards do at the moment, but I'm pretty sure they had like a few dangerous ones. But even more so, they have Shirayuki, which can power down the opponent's Vanguard, and obviously if you combine it with multi-attacks, that's really scary. So I'm going to put this high up under Alarming. I know a good Shirayuki player as well, so I would like to see what he does with this card as well. Then there is the Nubatama Stride. So this card here is counterblast 1 Soul Blast cost, so it uses a little bit of resource. Obviously you play Sakura Fubuki in this clan, so that always helps a little bit. But what it can do is it can voluntarily let your opponent call cards from drop zone, and of course it will gain power and give it to front row, or your opponent ends up discarding based on their action, which I don't think is going to be too big a deal. And it's giving your opponent a choice of what to play around, so that kind of powers it down a bit. And there's no Jeremy Congo because it's banned. You also can't use this with Rene or with the other opportunity cost that you have would be Sukumorokan. So I feel like maybe I'll just put this in queue. I don't think it's going to change much. There's also the Guard Restrict Grade 3 as well, but again, I just don't see how this is going to suddenly make Nubatama uber scary, so I'll put it under queue for now. Then what else? Have we been through all the Dragon Empire? That is all 5 of them. So next we will go into Space Gate. So we'll start with the Dimension Police Stride. This thing is an easy 100,000 because it gains 10k for every unit on your field. You have 5 units, you've got that 50k, so you go from 28 to 78. You have 3 damage, you're already on 108k, easy. And it's a burst ability as well to gain the extra 2 drives. It gets more power, it gains a critical as well. You come out of Force 2, which is easy to do. That's already inherently a triple crit at the Vanguard. And there's 5 drive checks. Obviously Commander Laurel can make things much worse. The V-Series version that is. So combine that with Linker and they can smash your Perfect Guards, which is again, 5 drive tricks is very easy to find grade 3s. So this is absolutely at the pinnacle of scary. It's a degenerate card, no doubt. So here we go. Let's put that up there. And then we will take a look at the next stride, which will be, let's take a look at the Nova Grapple one. So this looks a bit like Vermilion, but it looks like it's more themed after the Beast Deity, Azure Dragon I think, or Lunar Dragon. So this card, it's pretty good because what it does is it gives you another way of playing the game. It restands your Vanguard, but the problem is it's resource heavy, Counter Blast and Discard 2, and you're losing drives. You're losing 2 drives every time. So here's a way you can try and mash your opponent with big beaters, but I don't think that's going to be an issue for OTT. So I'm going to put this at the bottom. Then the other one we have is the Link Joker Stride. So this Link Joker Stride here is good for multi-tagging because you call 2 from the top 7 in locked, and then, well, you don't actually call, you place them, but, well, sorry, you put, and then you can unlock them or you can bounce them to your hand. So what you can do with this is you get more attacks, but unless you're playing the grade 4, I don't think you can really get more attacks that are that strong. And to be honest, if I fought against Chaos Break already, and obviously Messiah is pretty solid in itself, I just don't think this card is doing too much to elevate Link Joker like to a next level scary. So I think I'm just going to put this down here. It's good, but it's not something that should suddenly make OTT players more scared than they would be from before, which is why I can't rank this too high. Then we move on to the Dark State, or Dark Nation, Dark Zone. So we'll start with Spike Brothers. This is kind of scary because Rising Nova could abuse Force 1 and 2, and they can move markers around with their support cards. I don't know if they had grade 2s that can also move, because this card, when he attacks, he could call 2 grade 2s and then give everything boost. I don't know if they have grade 2s that can move markers around. I know there's a grade 1 that does it, so I'm not sure, but because I don't understand Spike Brothers, I definitely fear it a lot, and I've not had a good time against Spikes. Like, I've actually locked out my wins against them, so I'm putting this on the alarming section. This thing can always kill you anytime if you're not careful, so it belongs there. Then we move on to the Dark Irregular Stride. So Dark Irregular, it's a discard 5, Counter Blast 1, and you have to attack grade 3, so it's more for the late game stride. It's also very resource heavy, so I think this card is designed to be all in. You just plan to win that turn, and you're putting crits back into your deck, so you sack your opponent more with it. So really it's just there to kind of extend into a more solid win. It's quite scary for that reason, I would say, and Dark Irregulars against OTT can try to stall the game because they have Protect Gifts, so there is that, but I think also OTT could try to generate more hand as well to defend with. So I'm not entirely sure just how scary this will be, but I think Hope and Damp, because as the game advances, Hope and Damp would also be quite scary. But there's this idea that because Hope and Damp would be there anyway either way, that maybe you shouldn't really take this as a factor. So it's somewhere between these. Maybe I'll put it on the be careful, because I feel like I'm doomed either way with Hope and Damp anyway. So I don't know if this really... It could be like a win more card because of Hope and Damp. Obviously if Hope and Damp doesn't exist, then I'll probably rate this higher, but it does feel a bit less needed in the clan right now because of Hope and Damp, but I could be wrong. Obviously Dark Irregular players, feel free to correct the record on this. Then we have Pale Moon. So this stride is crazy. It's basically Counter Blast 1 on attack. You shove everything to your soul, and then for every card you put in, you basically call 2, so you're doubling your field if you want to do it that way. But then if you have different grades, then you're able to trigger off the Battle Duel skill, which is scary because you're playing an Axel deck, and Axel means more attacks. So any sort of Battle Duel skill in a multi-attacking deck is scary, and the Vanguard also benefits from it. So PG against it, you have to drop 3 cards. And in a deck like Silver Thorns, they can get the numbers high enough that even one trigger isn't going to stop their attacks. They're still going to ask you to drop 2 cards every time. So it's very lethal. You can quite easily die against this card. So this belongs at the very top on the scary, and you may notice it's not a Magia card either, so it's not even being comboed with Dark Lord. So that's really, really impressive that they managed to just come up with something that makes the 2019 stride no longer a spam abuse target. Then Gear Chronicle. This one is a bit of the unknown. This is very scary looking because what you can do is you can get rid of a unit on your field, and you call 2 units, after attacking with it. So you have these extra 2 attack and they gain 10k, so it's like a time leap but on steroids. And obviously the power gain helps because it deals with triggers. You've got force markers as well, go even more beyond with that. And then it's also got a G-Zone skill where it can actually call itself in the G-Zone, so you get even more big attacks, which is 25k base, just because you attacked with grade 3. And I think Steam Maiden, I could be wrong because I don't remember how Steam Maidens work, but surely you can get this off quite fairly okay in the Steam Maiden deck. So, but I've been told this card isn't really that good either, so I'm going to hesitate to put this up here because of that, because I'm hearing from Gear Chronicle experts that this card is actually not that good. So I'll take their word and I'll put it on the be careful for now. Then we go into next nation. Let's go with the Water Nation, Megalocarnica, or however you pronounce it. Aqua Force Stride, this guy is, I don't think he's doing too much that's different to what Aqua Force currently does, especially on first stride. It's not really going to be too much stronger, but obviously it gets stronger as the game advances. You can get an additional accel, which is quite good, but then you can also get more attacks with it. But I think if you're playing your deck to try and get damage triggers, then I think you might be okay against this stride. So I might just put it down here on the cute section, because for OT specifically, I think we might... I don't think it really makes the clan scarier to deal with as an OT player. It might be scary for other clans, but I just think OT might be able to insulate from that better. Then we have the Granblue Stride Bartholomew. I think One Piece fans will probably get the reference there. But this stride is scary for sure, because what it does is continuous, so it's the whole turn. If you have 13 your drop zone, then everything is like a battle door, but it's 3 cards you have to drop. So that's really scary. And bear in mind, OT, you're not necessarily going to win that fast OT against Granblue, so the game might last. And the other thing is if they're calling 2 Skull Dragons, that's before attacking, but then when he attacks, he calls 3 cards from a drop zone. Skull Dragon kills itself in the battle, so you're going to have that in the drop zone anyway. So you're going to get 4 Skull Dragon attacks, and if you PG, because normally you have to PG against it, because the numbers are going to be big at that point, that's 4 cards you have to drop. 4 cards, you're on 5 damage, that means you have to guard with 16 cards against those Skull Dragons. That's not even counting the stride. So just bear in mind, you're guarding with over 16 cards if you're on 5 damage. Obviously for every 1 less damage you have, that's 4 cards less you guard with. That's strong. That's so strong, and as an OT player that's very frightening, so that goes at the very top for scary. Then we have the Bermuda Stride. So this is sort of like using Unge twice almost, because you're basically calling cards from your hand after calling cards, and then you're also going into your heart and standing it, so you don't get the marker because you're not re-riding. It's a bit of a discard, but the discard cost doesn't really matter because OTT is more of a guard streak deck. It's not really winning because your opponent like suddenly lost 1 card in their hand, so it's a bit more, the discard cost doesn't really hurt them as much against OTT. So this actually makes this card scarier for that reason, I would say. And if they can press your hand harder, then it makes it a little bit more scary, I'd say, because then they'll get you into a position where you might not even meet Oracle. I would say this is a high be careful, borderline alarming. Maybe I should put it under alarming actually. I'll put it under alarming because I think, because the OT matchup, I think it actually does make a trigger, but I think the damage triggers can sort of mitigate it as well, so I might be overrating this. Like, I don't think it's going to hurt you too much first try. Maybe I should put it down here. Maybe I'm just jumping the gun on putting under alarming. Then we'll go to the Zoo Nation. So firstly we have the Grey Nature Stride. So this thing here basically turns your rear guard into a battle door. Yep, we got more battle doors in this set. They have to go with 3 cards from hand, so it's pretty effective. If you're using resanders, then even better. But the thing is an opportunity cost, because they can't use Monogamma if they do this, and obviously they have to work for the extra 10k, because the first skill can trigger once they have 10k onto your rear guard, but obviously they still need another 10k more, so they might have to play another card that gives 10k, otherwise they're going to have to gamble on triggers. And then in the turn they lose their front row anyway, so they get punished if they're not playing some of the old school cards that respond to being retired. So that's another factor as well. So I would say this card is a be careful maybe. I would say, like, if anything, but I don't think it's going to be as crazy because it's a CP1 cost which already cannibalizes on Crayon Tiger and the Big Belly Grade 3 that restands rearguards, and it's cannibalizing on Monogama, so I don't think it's going to be quite as dangerous, this battle skill, plus you can still G-guard against it, so I think I'll put it on the be careful. I don't think I'm going to put it too high up. Then the Mega Colony Stride, this stride here, very good in Gridora. It can countercharge if you retire a stand unit, and you're also moving cards into your soul, so you can build soul with this. And the thing is, it works from the G zone, so you can just flip with Gridora, and then you can still use this card, and it's powering down your opponent's Vanguard. So it's basically making the already annoying attacks in Gridora even more tougher, because you can do fire attacks, but now you can do fire attacks while your opponent's on less power. So G Guardians were already being turned off, so I couldn't even manipulate my damage triggers. So OT actually has a bit of a problem with Mega Colony because they can't access the G Guardian, which is quite important for this combo, for dealing with Mega Colony. So, but then we've got the new Stride, which helps because now we've got ways of building hand while accelerating GB at the same time. So it's not too bad of a matchup. I'm going to put this under Alarming because it's definitely making Mega Colony more scary for sure. It's giving them more ways of playing the game and oppressing us, so this is definitely a bump up. So for this new Nectar Stride, I would probably say be careful because it's still a massive improvement for the Nectar to be able to multiply their rearguard and get 2 more from deck, and then they can just use Bloom or Enes or something to get massive power gains. And being able to restand a rearguard twice with Force 2 is quite strong. But of course, because of Protect deck, and we have a solid grade 2 game as well, I think that helps us more against New Nectar. So I think that's pretty much how I'd rank this in terms of how much I'm scared of each of these different strides. Let me know down below what you think. How much of this stuff would you say we should be worried about, and how much of this stuff I'm maybe underrating? It's sort of just initial impressions, really. Obviously, this could change as I test more. So until then, I will see you later. Goodbye.